I had an interesting comparison the other day. I got a lot of credit for this. I'm not trying to my own wheels, but I am the author of the statement. Just to remind you what the statement was, I made a comparison between Khamzat Chimaev and Conor McGregor at this stage of their career. And I think that it's a very strong comparison. I think one of the reasons that people really listen is Khamzat Chimaev is currently a 12-1 favorite over Nate Diaz. He started at 8-1. Within 24 hours, he had moved almost double the other way to the point that it's a problem. I mean, it's actually a problem. This is a main event on a card that is top heavy. There's no title on the line, but there is a farewell to one of the UFC's greatest ever stars. It's a big deal and it's a big night. But it was so lopsided it's become a problem. I don't know that tickets are even on sale, but if tickets were on sale, I guarantee they're trending a hell of a lot slower than people would have expected, and a hell of a lot slower than any other Nate Diaz fight. It's a problem. It can be solved. They're working on solving it now, but this is happening right in front of your eyes. When you do a squash match, the squashing is done by the star. You don't get the star squashed, so it's just a unique formula. That's all I'm sharing with you. Everything's going to be fine. But this is the spot where we're in. I say, hey, hold on just a second with this 12-1 business. As great as you believe Chimaev to be, as great as you have seen Chimaev to be, as great as you believe Chimaev will go on to be, he is not, was not, and will not reasonably be more decorated than Conor McGregor was when Nate got in there and beat him. Now, Conor went off as a 2.5-1 or even a 3-1 at one point favorite. That's because Ireland brought in a bunch of money. But Conor McGregor was an interim champion of the world. He was a 45-pound champion of the world. He was a 55-pound champion of the world. Very relevant that you understand that. What Nate Diaz is up against with Chimaev is nothing compared to what he's already been up against and succeeded. And people really liked that comparison. They got to listen, but there were some people that started a discussion. The discussion was very fair, done on the underground forum. It's very fair. And people say, wait, hold on a second. Chimaev hasn't had the opportunity to fight for an interim championship. Chimaev hasn't had the opportunity to fight for the undisputed championships. Chimaev might just be every bit as talented, just not as recognized as Conor McGregor. That's fair. That is absolutely true. But when I go on to tell you it's going to be very unlikely that Chimaev, when the story is over, ever achieves what Conor had by the time Conor got in there with Nate, that's just opportunity, guys. That's not skill. To find yourself in an interim title fight is very rare. To successfully win a world championship is very rare, though it's done. To even be given the opportunity to go for champ status, guys. There's guys right now that could win the strap at different weight classes. They can't get the opportunity to try. And that story goes back from the beginning of time. I mean, what about the full decade and a half we did before we ever gave anybody the opportunity to even try to do it? And those guys are long done. They're in their nursing homes waiting for their daily allotment of applesauce right now. They're never going to be given the opportunity. So I do get that it's very fair to say, look, Chimaev's ever been as dangerous as Conor. He's just not as decorated. I do get that, but let's just stay on the topic for fun. Are you right? What would you say if I was to ask you, when everything's done, Conor's career will end long before Chimaev's career. Chimaev will probably have another 8 years on him. Maybe even 10. But when that 8 or 10 comes, and now it's all completed, and we can look at what Conor did, and we can look at what Chimaev did, who do you think is going to be ahead? Who achieved more is likely to be Conor for the case that I already laid out. To get 3 different world title opportunities just to get the opportunity, guys. Rare. Adesanya had it. Conor had it. Has anyone else? It's rare. Let alone to succeed. So let's just say that Chimaev does get the opportunity. Do you think he can cover the spread? And if he does, can we at least reasonably believe he can't outdo the spread? He would have to be champ, and champ. There'll be plenty of you that think that he's just that good. I get it. We can hear all of those things. He'll certainly be given that opportunity. But if he can tie Conor, he can get 3 different belts. I don't care about the weight classes, guys. What Conor has is 3 different belts. If he can do that, then we're going to have to look at popularity. You want to know who's bigger? It's not just about who landed more punches or who's got more finishes, which is a really stupid thing to even talk about. Who won more? It's going to be who made the most money. You want to know who the best fighter of all time is? It's whoever made the most money. The best boxer of all time, and it's not even a discussion, is Floyd Mayweather because he made the most money. If I was to ask you that in any other walk of entertainment, that's exactly what you would turn to. If I ask you who the best actor in the world is, the best and most successful actor is whoever made the most money, not who had the most Grammys or Oscars or whatever it is those arrogant, entitled pricks get together every year and hand themselves. It's whoever brought in the most money. If I was to ask you the greatest professional wrestler of all time, that is a conversation between Hulk Hogan and Stone Cold Steve Austin, and based on the temperament of Vince McMahon, because he continues to change that answer, it's one of them. Why? Because they brought the most money. They never hit a drop kick. They never hit a frog splash. They never hit a moonsault or a Hurricane Karana or any of these other stupid moves that wrestlers are doing these days. They got the most attention. They spread that over longevity, parlayed that into WrestleMania, saw themselves on pay-per-view, fill up arenas. So do you believe when this whole thing is done, first off, that Chimaev will have 3 different belts? That's a different question than is he good enough to. By the way, very hard. You're saying a lot if you think that he will. Now, do you think he'll make as much money? And I don't have a horse in this race. I don't care who ends up better between Chimaev and Conor McGregor. I think it's a compliment that those two are even being compared to each other for very different reasons, but a compliment that we've even isolated down to these two. So I don't think you're going to hurt anybody's feelings here. But you're saying a lot. And if you come to the conclusion of no, it's unlikely. Conor McGregor has a $17.2 million gate already done and in the books at Madison Square Garden. It was a rare opportunity because it was the first time the UFC ever went to the state of New York. I mean, there's just some things that you can't duplicate. They're going to be very hard to beat and outdo. But if you finally come to the conclusion of no, it strengthens my argument that Nate Diaz has already dealt with more than what he's getting ready to face, but he's a 12-1 dog. How? How are you 12-1 sure that a guy is going to fail when he's already been tested to a higher level and succeeded? I'm just asking the question. I think it's fair. I think we're going to have to ask questions like this. I think the 12-1 spread on a main event that is top heavy, that's got no belt on the line, got no contendership that we've been informed of, I think it's hard. But I also think there's a hell of a lot more to the story than what the bookmakers are saying. Bookmakers put it 12-1, but they didn't put $1 down themselves. The hell are you listening to these guys for? I'm telling you it's going to be a great fight. Who should you listen to? Some unnamed bookmaker or Chael P? To count Nate Diaz out, that's a laughable statement. It's insulting. It's rude. But it's also silly. I think I make a very fair point. I think when you really think this thing through, it comes down to accomplishments, when it comes down to longevity, when it comes down to main events, and when it comes down to money. Very hard to believe that Nate is going in there with somebody that will ever surpass what Nate has already successfully done.